Perek Eliezer, Perek Mem Zayin. We're holding in the middle of the Perek, discussing the story of Bnei Yisrael and Shittim when they strayed after the Bnei Midian and the Bnei Moav. That was the Eitzah. We're going to start from Taf Lamed Vav, Betzim. The Eitzah that Bilam gave to Balak and to the people of Midian was that they should try to get the Bnei Yisrael to do this Avera, and in that way they would be able to get Hashem to stop protecting Bnei Yisrael.
Tough.
Yeah, but we didn't start yet. There's one Nakuda that Rabbi Leomi Izmir in V'lo Oid Ella on page Taf Lamed Hey. So over there in V'lo Oid Ella he has an interesting discussion. Why is it that Bilam and Moav and Midian, why were they trying to get Bnei Yisrael Dafka to do these two Averas, Gilui Arayos and Avodah Zarah? We spoke about last week they were trying to get them to do Baal Peor, and then also to be Mizana with the Bnei Midian or Bnei Moav. So why Dafka these two Averas of Gilui Arayos and Avodah Zarah? So there's a word from Rechem Shmulevitz that Rechem Shmulevitz says that the whole idea of Baal Peor is that you take down all the gvulos. There's no boundaries. So if I can get you to do something that makes it that there's no boundaries, then it's easy to get you to do whatever I want afterwards. So that's the first step is to get them to do something, take away all the gvulos, take away all the boundaries, and then once there's no boundaries, the sky's the limit, so to speak. Eliyahu HaNavi says a few different points over here. Just we'll be makatza with what he says. The first point he says is that the averas of znus and avodah zarah are especially bad that they cause the Shechina to leave Bnei Yisrael. Lo yireh b'cha ervas davar v'shav me'acharecha. That's the isser of is an allusion to the isser of Arayos. Ervas davar v'shav me'acharecha. The Shechina is going to go back, and especially the avera of avodah zarah of Baal Peor, which has to do with relieving oneself in front of the Avodah Zarah, right? And that pasuk of Leir Bacha Ervas Tovar, Pashup Shad in the pasuk, what it's really talking about is that you're supposed to have V'yad Tia B'machana V'yatzas Sham Chutz V'chisas Tzeyasecha. You should have a bathroom when the Jews are in the Machana. That was what the Torah says. You're supposed to have a bathroom, and then it says in Leir B'char V'Slaver V'Shav Me'acharecha. So Hashem won't leave. The Shechina won't leave. So you see that the Shechina leaves when people don't properly dispose of their excrement, right? So the Avodah Zarah of Baal Peor is dafka embracing that. So that's going to cause shav me'acharecha, and that's the whole point of what Bilam was trying to do. Is trying to get the Shechina to not be on the side of Bnei Yisrael, and then there won't be a competition against Moav and Midian. That's one Nakuda he says.
But that was only one Avera also.
Yeah.
He's only talking about that specific Avera, and he's going to talk about the other Avera now.
So the other Nakuda he says is also about Baal Peor specifically, is that Bnei Yisrael were too sort of high class. They had too much pride in Yadus, in Yiddishkeit, in that they would never go out and do real straight Avodah Zarah. They would never go out and be makdir a karban to a different god, or be mishtachaveh to a different. That's too far. To try to get them to do that would be too far. But to try to get them to do something which, in some ways, you could say it's avodah b'zuya. So Bnei Yisrael you might be able to convince them to do such a thing, and they might have intention that they're doing it l'shem being mevazad avodah zarah, but l'maisa that's the way to be oved Baal Peor. That's the way to do it. So that's that's considered an isra of avodah zarah because that's darkly. Even though you in some way are thinking I'm really being mevazad, like the Gemara has a case of it's a story in Sanhedrin. Gemara in Sanhedrin that says that there was once a guy, and he lent his donkey to some lady, a Geisha lady, and as they were leaving the city, so the lady says, "Wait 1 second, wait for me. I just have to go visit my Avodah Zarah, and then I'll come back and we'll continue." Right? So she goes, she worships her Avodah Zarah, happened to have been Baal Peor. She worshipped it, and she came back. And then the Jewish guy was waiting with the donkey, and then the Jewish guy says to her, "says well, 1 second, I also have to go to your Avodah Zarah." And the lady says, "What do you mean? You're Jewish. You don't do Avodah Zarah." So the guy says, "No, it's okay. It's beseder. I'm going to go." He goes, and he uses the bathroom over there, and he uses the nose of the Baal Peor to clean himself afterwards. Right? So it says, the Gemara says that and everyone over there, all the Avodah Zarah, they were so happy. They said, "Oh, nobody was Avodah Baal Peor in such an extreme devotion like this guy did." Well, this guy wasn't trying to worship Baal Peor; he was trying to be mevazeh. And right, to show how disgusting it was, and they took it the other way. It's the same thing with Bilam. Like he would try to get them to do Baal Peor, and they would like try to do it in a way that they're trying to be mevazeh. But at the end of the day, they're really worshipping the Avodah Zarah. That's another nukuda.
What they call in this Israeli slang, lavo ba'afucha.
Lavo ba'afucha, to do the opposite.
Yeah. Okay.
And another nukuda about also dafka about why Baal Peor, the Gemara says, this is an interesting part. He brings Eliyahu HaNavi brings from the Sefer Toldos Yitzchak, from Rav Yitzchak Cairo, the uncle of the Beis Yosef, in Parshas B'Midbar Parak Chaf Hey Pasuk Yud Ches, in Parshas Balak. It says over there that we find that Bnei Yisrael in the Midbar complained to Hashem in Parshas Chukas. They complained about the man, that the man made it lechem akleikel. Lechem, the corrupted bread. Why is it called lechem akleikel? So Rashi says because they would eat the man and then they wouldn't have to go to the bathroom afterwards. So like they were scared, like there's something wrong with us. Well, why can't we go? Why we have to be able to go to the bathroom? Like something weird. So Bilam saw that they want to be able to go to the bathroom, so Dafka get them to do Baal Peor, which involves eating certain foods that makes you go to the bathroom, and then to be Ovid Avodah Zarah. The Gemara says that part of Baal Peor is first you eat tridin, which in modern Hebrew is spinach, and then you go to and then that makes you go to the bathroom, and then you're Ovid. So Bilam was saying like, oh, I see they have that need, they want to be able to go to the bathroom, so then I'll Dafka get them to do Baal Peor. Those are three nukudos and why Dafka. He was trying to get them to do Baal Peor. Why Dafka in general? Why Dafka Avodah Zarah? Why Dafka Gilui Arayos? So another nukuda he brings is the Gemara in Sanhedrin and Samach Gimel and Beis says the Lo Osu Yisrael es ha'egel ela lahatir lahem arayos. They only did the egel azov in order to use the worship of the egel as justification for transgressing the isurim of arayos. Right? What the pasuk says that. And letzachik is an expression of Gilui Arayos. Right, so Bilam saw that Bnei Yisrael has a certain netiya, a certain inclination towards Gilui Arayos, and they're even willing to worship Avodah Zarah to get to that Gilui Arayos. So Bilam wanted to play off of that and then get them to do Gilui Arayos and worship Baal Peor at the same time. Another vart that Rabbi Eliyahu HaNavi brings down. This is an interesting idea. He brings this he has a akdama, and then he builds on that a vart. He brings this in the name of Kas HaKadmoinim, Kas HaKoidmin. The group of people who say vartlach that they have hakdamas and they build upon those hakdamas. That's what he brings it in the name of Kas HaKoidmin. He brings a vart that it says. I found this vart in a sefer called Gvulos Binyamin, which is a Jewish sefer in Parshas Kisisa, and then I found it afterwards also in the Maram Ash, who's a Talmud of the Chassam Sefer, the Maram Ash in Imrei Eish in Parshas Kisisa, and in Parshas Hazinu he says this the first part of this vart that we're going to say over here. The Maram Ash was a Talmud of the Chassam Sefer. It happens to be that my great grandfather was a Talmud. He learned, his name was Reuven Chaim Klein. And he learned originally by the Chassam Sefer in Pressburg, and then when the Chassam Sefer died, he moved to Ungvar to learn by the Maram Ash. So like that's the Maram Ash was like Talmud of the Chassam Sefer.
My great father.
Yeah.
אבא של סבא שלי.
אבא של סבא.
הוא היה תלמיד של שבט סופר.
שבט סופר.
הנכד של חתם סופר.
שמחה בון, what is it? שמחה בונם? What is it?
זה משמע.
On Pressburg.
He was in
Transylvania.
You're named after your
Dracula.
great
I'm named after my grandfather, who's named after his great grandfather.
Oh. Wow. So you even know that far down.
No, I'm into these type of things. So like one of my sons is named after my other great grandfather. Another one of my sons is named after a great grandfather.
You're Hungarian.
Yeah, Vada.
He was here in Eretz Yisrael, in Tzfat, the beginning of the century, and he was sent from the Kila to London, and then my great grandmother died in London, and he came back to Transylvania, where first
You know what city in Transylvania?
he was buried in Gerla, next to Dej.
Hungarian.
Oh, so Al Capone, what's the vart? So the vart is like this. Moshe Rabbeinu says when he's davening to Hashem to forgive Bnei Yisrael for the Egel Azav, it says, "Ana chata ha'am hazeh chata gedayla v'yasu lahem egel ma'asecha." Right? It says, "Oh, please Hashem, this nation has sinned a horrible sin, a great sin. They made an egel
Are
ma'asecha."
you reading?
I'm saying over a vart from V'loi Oid Ella.
He has.
Yeah.
Lord Ella.
Okay.
On page Taf Lamed Hey, over there. Taf Lamed Vav. So he says, what's this ana chata ha'am chata gedayla? They did a great sin. What if Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to ask Hashem for forgiveness for the Cheda Egel? Why is he calling it a great sin? So they say a chiddush. The chiddush is that there's a medrash, Shmais Rabbah and other midrashim say that chata gedayla is referring to Gilei Arayos. Right, so why is Moshe Rabbeinu mentioning that when he's talking about the chet of the Egel Azav? And why is he magnifying the sin? He should be trying to minimize it if he's asking for forgiveness. So these Mefarshim, the HaKodemin say that the vart is that the yisoid of the Isser of Avodah Zarah is that it's not covered for Hashem that a person who's created with a Tzelem Elokim should be mishtachave to Avodah Zarah. Because then it looks, in certain bechina, it looks like Kilo Hashem is worshipping an Avodah Zarah, because a person is created b'Tzelem Elokim. So if you're a reflection of Hashem and you're worshipping Avodah Zarah, so in a certain way it looks like Hashem is worshipping an Avodah Zarah, which is mamish like it doesn't make any sense, and it's mamish like not bekovadik or whatever. So the ikar nekuda of why a person shouldn't do Avodah Zarah, according to this pshat, is because a person has a Tzelem Elokim. So Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to say that first they did a rayas, and when they were nichshal in a rayas, the Mukubalim say that a person who's nichshal in a rayas, he loses his Tzelem Elokim. So first Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to say that Bnei Yisrael lost their Tzelem Elokim, and then v'yatzalam egel masecha. Then he says they did a egel, they created a golden calf. But when they created the golden calf, they didn't have a Tzelem Elokim anymore. So it's not as bad that they were oived of Avodah Zarah because they didn't have a Tzelem Elokim. That's the vart that these Mefarshim say. V'lo Ella brings down B'Shem Kasa Koidmin, Gvulos Binyamin, Maram Ash, etc. Based on this idea, Rabbi Leomi Israel wants to say a pshat over here by Bilam. He wants to say that what Bilam was trying to do is he was trying to trick Bnei Yisrael into worshipping Avodah Zarah. So the way to do that is you get them to do a rayas and then Avodah Zarah, because you'll tell them, look, Avodah Zarah is a bad thing. It's a very chamor isser. But if you do Gilei Rayas first, then the Avodah Zarah is not so bad. So that's why he was dafka trying to do this combo, this double combo of Gilei Rayas and Avodah Zarah together, because he thought that that's how he would be able to convince them to do it. But that's more real. That's going to get to what we did last week, but we didn't have a chance to speak it out. So let's go weiter. We're up to V'chol HaNesiim towards the bottom of page Taf Lamed Vav. So basically, we said that Bnei Yisrael started to be nichshal in the Bnei Midian and Bnei Mayav, and the Nasi of Shevet Shimon, Zimri ben Salu, he himself was nichshal in it, and they don't know what the leaders are not going to know what to do. V'chol HaNesiim, all the Nesiim, I guess all the other Nesiim besides Zimri ben Salu, U'Moshe, the Elazar, Pinchas, Ra'u l'malach hamaves. All the Nesiim, Moshe, Elazar, Pinchas, the leaders of Klal Yisrael, they saw the Malach HaMavis. They saw that the Malach HaMavis came and was going to bring a magefa, a plague upon Bnei Yisrael, because they were nichshal with Bnei Midian and Bnei Mayav. And the leaders were sitting and they were crying. And they didn't know what to do. V'ro'a Pinchas l'Zimri sheba b'farhes el Midianis. Pinchas saw that Zimri was publicly having relations with the Midianis. Vikine kina gedola, and Pinchas had a great kina. He had great zealousness. And what did he do? V'chotaf miyadeh shel Moshe as a romach. He grabbed from the hand of Moshe Rabbeinu the spear. V'ratz acharov, and he ran after where Zimri was with this lady. Udkoroi me'acharei brisai, and he stabbed him from behind his bris milah, the place of his bris milah. So he stabbed him from behind. V'yotza haromach bekova shel isha, and the romach, this spear, went in from the back of the man, meaning from behind the place of his bris, through his body into the woman's body, and it came out in the kava shel isha, in the kava of the woman. What's the kava of the woman? Well, 1 second, we'll have to speak about that. Lefichach nasan leKadosh Baruch Hu ma'achal keva. Therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu gave to Pinchas a present of the food of the keva. Now, a keva is, you know what a keva is? A keva is a stomach. Right? A cow has multiple stomachs. It has a what's it called? A keres, and it has a keva and a hemsis and basokosis. A cow has a whole bunch of stomachs, and one of the stomachs, I believe it's the last stomach, but I'm not sure. I'll have to see. Rashi in Eliyahu says exactly the order. I don't remember what Rashi says, but keva I think is the last stomach. The keva is the last stomach of a cow, and the keva is famous because it produces a certain enzyme called rennet, which was originally used for making cheese. If you take milk and you put it in rennet, then the cheese curls, and then it curdles, and then it becomes the milk curdles and becomes cheese. That's what a keva is. So a keva is a part of an animal. It's one of the stomachs. So we said that when Pinchas stuck the spear through behind the man's bris milah, and it went through his body, through her body, and it came out on by the keva of her. Pashtus, at least according to Pirkei Eliezer, it means it came out through her stomach. That's what it seems to say. Rashi and Chumash and Targum Yenis and Chumash don't learn like that. They take the word kava means like kava is like nigzar from the word nikeva, right, which means the place, the nakfus, the female body part, the rechem. Let's say, I don't know. That's right, but then it can't be that Pirkei Eliezer learns it like that, because then it doesn't make sense. What shaychas keva to kava? It says, I know.
Oh yeah.
The pasuk says the word kava. Right, kava sa. The word kava is only mentioned once in Tanakh, and the word keva is only mentioned once in Tanakh. Like that's the connection, even though it's like different words, pashtus. I don't know how to.
Rashi doesn't also say that the reason that the Kohanim get the keva is because of this.
Well, it's a gemara. It really, no, chanami. It's a gemara. It's also a gemara in Chulin that says this. I don't know exactly how to put it together. But we'll finish off the rest of this story in a moment. But just this Nakuda says that, what did Pinchas do? Where did he get this spear? He grabbed the spear from the hand of Moshe Rabbeinu.
Why Moshe hold it?
Why
he has to hold it?
So why is Moshe Rabbeinu holding? First of all, why is Moshe Rabbeinu holding a spear? Second of all, nobody else was holding a spear? So the Radal says a vart. He brings the Gemara says that Ein nichnasun b'klei zayin lebeis hamedrash. You don't go into beis hamedrash holding a weapon. You have these people that come in with their guns or whatever. You have to know exactly what the heter, if you're allowed to do it. Maybe you're not allowed to hold it. Maybe if it's attached to you, maybe it's okay. I don't know. But he says, but so nobody else had a weapon. Well, Moshe Rabbeinu had a weapon, and he grabbed it from Moshe Rabbeinu's hand. He doesn't explain why Moshe Rabbeinu Dafka had a romach.
And it's a bigger question because he was the Rebbe.
Yeah.
He's the Rebbe giving over the shir all the time.
Right.
So why is he holding dafka?
So the Marzu.
He know the halacha.
Right. So the Marzu wants to say that the pshat is it doesn't literally mean he grabbed the romach from the hand of Moshe Rabbeinu, he grabbed the spear. Rather, it means that he grabbed the spear as like a figurative way of saying that like he took the initiative and he took on what back to him you would have expected Moshe Rabbeinu to take care of. It really should have been Moshe Rabbeinu's achrayus to go do something about this whole matzav with the Bnei Midian. Moshe Rabbeinu should have done something, but he didn't. It says he was Yosef Ubaycha, he was sitting and crying, he wasn't doing anything. And Pinchas went and he took it from the hand of Moshe Rabbeinu, like meaning he took what you would think Moshe Rabbeinu should do, and he took it for himself, and he did something about it.
Well, the Rashi said that he's asking.
So there's other pshat. Right, that's what I wanted to tie up. That the pshat is that he took it, meaning Moshe Rabbeinu didn't say go and do this, because Habayl Aramis Kanaim Paigim Bay is halacha ve'en mayrin. It's true. It's a true halacha. It's a true din. It's a true law. But you're not supposed to go out and teach it and tell people that paskin, this is what you're supposed to do. So like, it's not like Moshe Rabbeinu gave over the romach to Pinchas and said, go do it. Pinchas knew that it's halacha to do it, and he went and he did it on his own. It didn't come. Yeah. Kanaim Pagim.
Since he learned from his uncle, you don't do things without the Rebbe telling you what to do. Because his uncle's got in trouble over that.
Who? Which uncle?
Nadav and Avihu.
Nadav and Avihu. I hear. No, but here he knew what the halacha is. I guess he knew that that's the halacha. Just that we don't say it. Like when Moshe Rabbeinu was teaching Masechus Sanhedrin to Pinchas, so he said, this is the halacha. It's a halacha ve'en mayrin kain. Because otherwise, what do you mean ein mayrin kain? It's a Mishnah, right? It's Mishnah Sanhedrin.
You can't say that the halacha came from this. Supposed to the halacha was already there, and obviously not, because that's not what the Kohanim say. But seemingly he did the right thing, and that's how we learn out from.
Just like the halacha of a woman covering her hair.
Yeah.
You learn about the halacha of a woman covering her hair, but in fact, it's uncovered. It never says that a woman should be covered her hair. It just says that it's something uncovered. So it could be like he says. You learn the halacha from what he did.
Also,
I mean, Pashtus is a halacha l'Moshe Sinai that just there's no explicit pasuk that says it, but that's what we know that there's such a halacha. That's what it means halacha ve'en mayrin kain. Oh.
But this is always a piece of Kanaim.
Right, it's only Kanoim Pagim.
Yeah. Before that, it starts from the Kanaim.
Yeah.
Still when Levi and Shimon killed Shechem.
Right.
Yes,
that's Hachasinu. Yeah.
Means that they did a inyan shel kina.
Right.
It also was an opposite. Inyan shel mochei.
Right.
And then Oto Bekale did the sin. And Oto Bekale is killing the sinner. All from Levi.
Because Shimon was one of the original people who went against Shechem, Shimon and Levi, and then when Shimon did it himself,
and also
saying Levi, who Pinchas is from Levi, went and killed the Nasi of Shimon. What are you saying?
Yeah, but they got in trouble for doing what they did, Shimon and Levi. And Yaakov Avinu was angry at them.
So Shimon and Levi didn't really get in trouble. Shimon and Levi didn't really get in trouble for what they did. Shimon and Levi got in trouble for, let's say, a certain midah that motivated what they did. Shimon and Levi, achim kleichamas b'choresehem, orur apam. Yaakov Avinu cursed their anger because in a certain way they were doing it out of anger. It's like that was the
not kina. Here it's kina, not anger.
Right, here it's kina. Over there it could be it was kina, but it was also in certain ways anger. Yeah.
But Levi got to be Yaakov before he dies. Elevates Levi.
Right, because Levi afterwards shows that he's gone above. No, Yaakov Avinu. When Yaakov Avinu dies, he doesn't elevate Levi. Shimon and Levi are equal.
And how come Levi? Then when does it doesn't?
By Moshe Rabbeinu, when Moshe Rabbeinu was dying, so there Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't give a bracha, and V'zayis bracha, he doesn't give a bracha to Shimon, but he does give a bracha to Levi.
Yeah, but the thing is, when Yaakov Avinu was being carried to Israel from Egypt,
yeah,
wasn't Levi told not to carry his body because he's a priest?
No, none of the sons were carried the body.
But Levi was given some
None
special...
of the grandsons, whatever.
Levi was given some special consideration then.
I know, I don't remember.
Because in Mitzrayim, the Levites were...
Well, pater from the work,
Because
yeah.
they were the priests.
Right.
So when did they become the priests?
That's another very good question. They became the priests at the Chet HaEgel. He took it from Reuven and he gave it to Levi. But yet, you see exactly that they were special already in Mitzrayim.
Mitzrayim.
That's a very
Yeah.
good question.
As soon as Moshe was declared the Moshiach.
Even before that, because he's saying that Levi never
worked.
did the shibud in Mitzrayim.
Right, but it's before Moshe Rabbeinu was born.
They
were-
had connections in the power kingdom by Moshe when he was before.
They had connections.
Before Moshe Rabbeinu
It
was
protects
even,
you.
before Moshe Rabbeinu was even born, the Levites didn't get involved in the slavery. They were
Yeah.
they were busy being priests. We can't have time for this.
So it's a good question. We have to figure out exactly at what point did Levi show that he's above everyone else.
No, the Levi didn't go to the other tribes. They were not, התנסו הם התנסו מעל הבחורים. The fight was not between Levi and other who will be the number one.
Right.
Before that was the Bechorim was the leaders
Right.
Of all the tribes,
in all the tribes.
not Shevet
Ab-
Reuven.
Reuven was the Bechor.
Yeah, Reuven lost the Bechor. I
He
mean,
lost the before to
Yosef.
Pashtus, in certain, mostly to Yosef, yeah, but could be there were different facets of the Bechor.
Rivka already got the prophecy, Ravi Avot Tza'ir.
But I mean, that's really Yaakov and Esav.
Yeah, but it's still started. Or Yitzchak Ishmael.
So what did Pinchas do? V'imet Zimri Kozbi, he strengthened his arms. V'hemidus romach ba'aretz. Right? Imagine we had a toothpick over here, right? You had two people. You have Zimri and you have the lady, and he took the romach and he put it through them, right? And then with his great strength, he strengthened his arms, and then he took the romach and he flipped it like this.
He carried them around.
And he had them on the top of the romach, still attached to each other, right? You find that they were hanging on the head of the spear, this one on top of the other one. The man above the woman.
no.
Oh, so that's the problem because you had the man on top of the woman, right? And then the spear came through, and then if you flip the spear upwards, so now the woman's on top of the man, right? So how does that work? So the Marzu asks the question. Marzu says the Chazal tell us that there were Yud Beis Nisim that happened to Pinchas on that day, and one of the Yud Beis Nisim was that a Malach came and switched them, so that on the top of the romach you'll have the man on top of the woman, even though Ba'atzim the woman would have been on top of the man otherwise. Why?
Does that have to be
Because
in there?
to show everybody what they were doing, to make it more obvious what they were doing over there.
Okay, I don't see how that would make it more obvious.
Okay, so V'nispardu or v'nispazru halchayayim halachi shel ish melachia shel isha, and their cheeks were separated, the cheek of the man from the cheek of the woman. Apparently, they were, I guess, what they call lip locked together. And then when Pinchas killed them, so their cheeks separated from each other. Therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu gave as a present to Pinchas the food of the l'chayayim, of the cheeks. Shenemar v'nasan l'kohen hazrev al chayayim ve'akeva. There's a pasuk in Devarim Perek Yud Ches pasuk Gimel, says you should give to the kohen the zroya, the arms, the l'chayayim, the cheeks, ve'akeva, and the keva with that stomach. Those three parts of an animal automatically go to a kohen.
Rashi
This
doesn't come with this. Rashi comes with a different shot.
I know there's a Gemara in the Chulin about it also,
Okay, fine.
but the Zraya is because the way the Medrash over here is saying it, the Zraya is because Pinchas strengthened his arms, the L'chayayim because when he killed them he separated their cheeks from each other, and the Keva is because the spear came out from the woman's Keva. Eliyahu Israel also says a similar zach, a similar pshat. He says that he says that the Zraya is because it says that Pinchas took the spear from Moshe Rabbeinu. So you would say, oh, he's not being machalik covered larav because you can't just grab something from Moshe Rabbeinu. So therefore Hashem gave Pinchas dafka the Zraya to show that, like, no, what you did when you grabbed it from Moshe Rabbeinu, that was good, that was okay. Because we say that the b'makam sheyesh chilul Hashem ein cholkin covered larav. So grabbing it from Moshe Rabbeinu, that was the right thing to do. So therefore you get the arm. And then why does he get the l'chayayim? Because when Pinchas ruled the halacha, he said, oh, this is the halacha, the Kohanim Gedolim boy. So he said it with his lips, with his mouth, with his words. So his cheeks moved when he said it. Jawbone moved when he spoke. So therefore he gets the l'chayayim as a reward for that. Because you would have thought that, oh, he's going against Moshe Rabbeinu because Moshe Rabbeinu didn't say that that's the halacha. So saying, no, he did the right thing with his l'chayayim. So he also gets l'chayayim. And it says the keva. This one I didn't really get. It says that keva, the Gemara in Bracha says that the keva, that's the part of the body that goes to sleep first. That the shena is nimshach mea keva. So Pinchas, he wasn't kilo, he was sleeping, he was like awake when he did this, as opposed to everyone else who wasn't doing anything. They were kilo, they were sleeping, so therefore he gets the keva. It's a similar. The Gemara in the end of Hazrev al Chayayim in Mesachas Chulin says. What? Right, it could be. I don't know.
Or maybe keva is not the manai.
I don't. That's what I'm saying. Keva is not a body part that human beings have. Keva is a body part of a cow. So like I don't know what does it mean keva for a person. It's not something you say about a person. You don't have a keva. This is a stomach. A stomach is not called a keva. Maybe it's a keres. Maybe it's a beta. And maybe not. You don't say.
Why does it say kilkul keva?
What's kilkul keva?
You have a bad stomach. Maybe the same.
It's the same word? I don't know.
Same word like me'ayim.
No, that's maybe today. Maybe that's because of what's his name, Yehuda.
When you go to the doctor, you don't say my keva hurts.
Maybe he took it because Rav Kook told him that's a word for stomach. So he said, okay, keva.
I don't know. But the Gemara says this about Darshei Rishumo Yisayimrim, that the Kohanim get Zraya l'chayayim ve'keva because of the story of Pinchas. The Gemara says a similar thing over here. But okay, yeah, let's go weiter. Come, Kedayin Adol Shefet LiYisrael. Pinchas got up like a great judge, judging Bnei Yisrael. Shinam, it says the pasuk Vayamay Pinchas Vayifalel. Pinchas got up and he was Vayifalel. Usually people say Vayifalel means that he prayed. That's the Gemara in Brachas says. The Gemara in Brachas says that Vayamay Pinchas Vayifalel is talking about davening. But the Medrash here says something different. You give him like a criminal. You give him a criminal punishment. Beflilim, right? Avon plili in modern Hebrew is like a criminal offense, right? So vayifalel, when it says that Pinchas was vayifalel, it means that he was like deciding like a criminal case. He was deciding a case of like a capital offense. Vayamake bebachurei Yisrael, and he would hit the bachurei Yisrael that were nichshal in this avera. And he dragged them around to all the corners of the Jewish camp, so that the Jews will see this is the einish that happens to a person who's nichshal in this avera, and v'yiro, and they'll be scared and they won't be engaged in that avera anymore. V'roa Kadosh Baruch Hu ma'asa Pinchas, and Hashem saw what Pinchas did. V'yotzas ha'magefa ma'al Yisrael. And Hashem stopped the magefa, the plague that was killing the people of Bnei Yisrael, as a punishment for being nichshal. Shenamar, it's the pasuk Vayatei Tzara magefa, where it says Vayamay Pinchas Vayifalel Vayatei Tzara magefa. This is in Tzelem, where it's recounting this story of Bnei Mayav, and it says that the magefa stopped when Pinchas got up to Vayifalel, which means that like he judged them. Other Chazals tell us Vayifalel means that he prayed, he davened, and that's how the magefa stopped. The point is that Pinchas stopped this magefa, but there were casualties. 24,000 Jews died, as we said last week, and as we will see towards the end of the parak.
Is there any significance to the fact that 24,000 passed away from this one, but from the Egel only 3,000 died? Was it Yoter Garua from the Egel, or something like any something like that, or Stam? You have no idea.
I don't know. I don't know. I do know that the Megala Amukais, don't tell this to anyone, but the Megala Amukais says that the 24,000 people that died by Shittim is connected to 24,000 Talmidim of Rabbi Kiva. Huh? Yeah, the Megala Amukais says that. What's the pshat in the Megala Amukais? I don't know.
Who's Megala Amukais?
Megala Amukais was of Nasan Nata Shapiro of Krakow. He was a Talmud of the Tesis Yantiv. Or, yeah, Talmud of the Tesis Yantiv. Rabbi Elazar Omer. Rabbi Elazar says, Hey, Sefer HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shemai Shel Pinchas Kishmai Shel Eliyahu Zachor L'Tayv. HaKadosh Baruch Hu changed the name of Pinchas to be the name of Eliyahu Zachor L'Tayv. To be the same as Eliyahu, maybe he be remembered for good. Meaning Hashem changed Pinchas' name to Eliyahu. Because Pinchas was such a kanoi for the covet of Hashem, so he gave him a special name called Eliyahu. What's the specialness about the name Eliyahu? So there's an idea, something called what's called a theophoric name, a theophoric element in a proper name. A theophoric element is a hint or an allusion to a person's God in his personal name. It's something that was very common in the ancient world. Right? Actually, there's Pirush Rabbeinu Yosef B'char Shor in Parshas Noach. He says that began in the door of Enosh. Az huchal likrei b'shem Hashem means that's when they started giving people's names. They would put like a name of Hashem inside a person's name, Mahalalel or Muchuyael. Right? They put the name Kel of Hashem inside a person's personal name. Right? Yisrael has the name of Hashem in it. All these different names, right? Yirmiyahu, Chizkiyahu, Adoniyahu. All these people have names of the Yud Hey Vav at the end is the name of Hashem. So Eliyahu is a double theophoric name. It has Kel in the beginning, Aleph Lamed, and then it has Yud Hey Vav, which is the Shem Havaya. So Hashem gave Pinchas a special name because he was such a kanoi for Hashem. He got the name of Eliyahu.
This is the source where the Eliyahu was a Kohen?
This is...
Elokim is the Midat Adin. The Yud Kevav is the rachamim.
Yes.
So you combine them together.
It could be. I mean, it's not so partial because Elokim is din, but what about Kel? Is Kel din or rachamim? Does that mean din or rachamim? A lot of it's machlik is different mepharshim if Kel means din or rachamim, but whatever it's. We don't have to get on to din or rachamim. That's already a different nekuda. But so Hashem gave Pinchas the name Eliyahu. Is this the makar that Eliyahu HaNavi was the kohen?
Meaning, is this the we say that Eliyahu was a Gilgul of Pinchas? Therefore, Eliyahu was a kohen.
Well, first of all,
we talked about this.
First of all, who said Eliyahu was a Gilgul of Pinchas? First of all, a lot of Mepharshim say Eliyahu is Pinchas. Not is Gilgul, is Pinchas.
Is Pinchas.
I mean, there's a Gemara that we spoke about, the Gemara in Baal Peor, Kuf Dalet, that Rav Anan maybe it was? No, Rav Baal. So one of the Amoraim, Tanam Amoraim, whatever, he was in a basic forest and he met Eliyahu HaNavi there. He says, Lav Kohen Mar, aren't you a Kohen? So you see that the Gemara understands that Eliyahu HaNavi was a Kohen. But here we're saying that Pinchas is Eliyahu. He just had a name change. Miteshre Gilad, from the inhabitants of Gilad. Why is he called from the inhabitants of Gilad? Eliyahu HaNavi is described in the pasuk as Miteshre Gilad. What's the Jewish on Miteshre Gilad? She'asa Yisrael tshuva be'eretz Gilad. Teshve is milashon tshuva, and Gilad is Gilad, meaning all of the Ever Yarden is called in some places Gilad. So the one who caused Bnei Yisrael to do tshuva in the place of Gilad, that's Eliyahu HaNavi, who is also Pinchas, because Pinchas caused Bnei Yisrael to do tshuva over there in Vatei Magefa.
Not the Gilad that was previously named by Yaakov and Lavan?
No, that's Galaid.
That's Galaid.
Same letters pronounced differently.
It's not different. So I always wondered. Said a lot. This word is just different.
Yeah, Pashtus. I mean,
Okay.
I don't
Even
know.
though- yeah.
I don't know where Galaid is, but it can't be more than a few days away from Haran, which is in the future state of Kurdistan.
Really?
Be'erich. So like
That's much farther
farther north,
east,
northeast.
north than
Yeah.
I would have expected.
That's where Haran is. Haran is off. It's off of the Tigris. The Mamish fighting right there. That's
Iraq.
yeah. Mosul.
Past Iraq.
Mosul is. I told you this before. Mosul is Nineveh,
Oh,
more or less.
really? Which is in
There's a
this
big
parsha.
article about Mosul, I think, in the Ahmadiyya this week.
Yeah, pro or against.
It tells about the Jews there. I didn't read it.
There's Jews left there.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe,
Oh, never.
Mosul, there was an article because there's no more ISIS there. They said they get up in the morning and there's no ISIS. Whatever.
It's not true. But
Wait a
whatever.
minute.
It's a political trick. Whatever.
Nineveh?
here.
Nineveh. Yeah.
That's this week's parsha.
Why is that this week's parsha?
It says in Noah.
Oh, Nineveh. Here, Gedolim.
Nineveh, Irgadola. It was made by. Who was it made by?
Article. I didn't read the hit.
Oh wow. Recapturing the ancient Jewish city of Mosul. It's a Jewish city. Where did that come
Nineveh
from?
is not a Jewish city.
We'll have to take a look at this later. But Al Kapanim, yeah. So the whole eretz of Ever Yarden is called Gilad, and Pinchas caused Bnei Yisrael to do tshuva over there, so he's called Toshevei Gilad. Right? There's the Indian Mitzvah Shabbos to speak about Eliyahu HaNavi, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the different putim that people say in Mitzvah Shabbos is mirrors. Eliyahu HaNavi,
Eliyahu Tishbi,
Eliyahu Tishbi,
Eliyahu Giladi,
right?
זה הכינויים שלו.
Right.
Because they never give his parents' names.
What?
They never give his parents' names.
Right. They never give his parents names. The Radal wants to say that don't interpret. Okay, whatever. He wants to say don't. I mean, I think it's obvious. We'll speak it out because the Radal feels the need to speak it out. But Eliyahu HaNavi did cause Bnei Yisrael to do tshuva in a different case, right? When they had the Nevi'ei Baal, that story with they built the Mizbeach and the Nevi'ei Baal were praying and then the fire never came and Eliyahu prayed and the fire came and all the people fell on their faces and said Hashem Elokim, Hashem Elokim, right? So there he got them to do tshuva there. So maybe it's talking about that. So the Radal says no, because that happened where?
Carmel.
Har Carmel. Where's Har Carmel? Next to where Haifa is, right? And that's obviously not Gilad. So how could you say that's obviously that's not Eretz Gilad? So obviously we're talking about something that happened in Eretz Gilad in Ever Yarden. Also you saw tshuva be'eretz Gilad, or the Radal Zakir. Also you saw tshuva al yodoi be'eretz Gilad. How do we know that Eliyahu and Pinchas is the same person? So the Pinchas Eliyahu says we're going to darshan over here. Let's stick with the Shava. Shema, it says in Pasuk, Brisi haisa itoi hachayim v'hashalom. My bris, my covenant is with him for life and for peace. V'nosan lechayim olam hazeh v'chayim haba. Hashem gave Pinchas olam hazeh and olam haba, life in olam hazeh and life in olam haba. He's going to live forever. He's not really going to die. And even though he went up in a Saira, in a storm into Shemayim, but Lamaisa he does come down and appear amongst people when necessary. V'nasan lai ulvanav sachar toiv ben tzadikim uvein rishayim, and Hashem gave him and to his children a good reward, whether they're going to be tzadikim, whether they're going to be rishayim, laman kuhunas olam, for an everlasting kuhuna. So Pinchas and his descendants will always be Kohanim. There's a thesis in Meseches Yoima that says that there were 80 Kohanim Gedolim who were descendants of Pinchas. Right? So it's a kunas olam, everlasting kuhuna. Shenamar v'ha'isa lo yilzarei acharav bris kunas olam.
Didn't every Kohen have to be a descendant of Pinchas?
No, every Kohen had to be a descendant of Aaron. Aaron had two sons that have children, right? Elazar and Isamar. So all Kohanim are descendants of Elazar and Isamar. Of Elazar had a son named Pinchas, and there are descendants of Pinchas. But not every Kohen is descendant of Pinchas. There are some are from Elazar, some are from
Did
Isamar.
Pinchas have any brothers?
Did Pinchas have any brothers? We could assume that he did. It doesn't say explicitly that he did, but we could assume that he did. we're darshing over here by Eliyahu HaNavi in Malachi. It says Brisi Haisa Itay Hachaim VeHashalayim, and over here it says in the beginning of Pashas Pinchas Hineni Nesin Leis Brisi Shalayim. So it's a similar lashon, Brisi and Shalayim, and over here it says Brisi Shalayim. So from that, Chazal understood that Pinchas and Eliyahu HaNavi is the same person. Yeah. The Radal points out another interesting thing that's really, it's not really neged to over here per se, but it's neged to understanding the sugya of Pinchas and Eliyahu in general. That pasuk in Malachi, which says Brisi Haisa Itay Hachaim VeHashalayim, the next pasuk says Kisif Sekoyen Yishmeru Das V'chulu. And the end of the pasuk says, "Ki Malach Hashem Tzavokos Hu." He is a Malach Hashem Tzavokos. He's an angel of Hashem. Right? And we said earlier in Parak Chavdalid, Chavtes, Parak Chavtes, we said that Eliyahu HaNavi became a Malach. He became the Malach HaBris after, where at a certain point he became a Malach HaBris. Eliyahu HaNavi became an angel. He's no longer a human being. That's a way of understanding what happened to Eliyahu. He went up in a Sarah, yeah. Oh, so that's a shadow. Did he die? Or he went up? Here we're saying he didn't die. He says, means that he was living forever, Pashtus. So there's a Trumas Adeshan. It's a famous Trumas Adeshan. It's Sibin Kuf Beis. The Trumas Adeshan says, what's the halachic status of Eishes Eliyahu HaNavi? Eliyahu HaNavi's wife. Is she allowed to get married to somebody else?
Did he have a wife?
Let's assume that he had a wife. He had to have had a wife because, at least at some point, because Pinchas was a Kohen Gadol, and a Kohen Gadol has to be married. So for sure at some point he had a wife. We also discussed this. We spoke about this because when we spoke about the story of the Ben Hashunamis, Ben Tzarfis, we spoke about Eliyahu, if Eliyahu was married or not.
Yeah.
I think the Radal said that Mistama he was, they just didn't mention it or something. But, so, or it could ask it as a theoretical question. The Trumas Adeshan wants to know, what's the halacha? Is Eliyahu HaNavi's wife allowed to get remarried or not? So the Trumas Adeshan says, well, there's the Isser of Eishes Ish, there's no Isser of Eishes Malach. And Eliyahu HaNavi has a din of a malach. He's not an Ish, therefore you're allowed to marry Eishes Eliyahu. It's a famous Trumas Adeshan.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So comes along Rav Elchanan Wasserman in Kovetz Shurim, and Rav Elchanan says, I don't understand it. Because when a man marries a woman, right, she becomes Asr, she's an Eishes Ish. Right? So what is matir the Isser Eishes Ish? One of two things.
Gerushin.
Death or Gerushin or Misa. Right? So what happened to Eliyahu HaNavi? He didn't have she didn't have Gerushin, and she didn't have Misa. He just had he was a person, he turned into a Malach. But there was no Misa to be matir her.
So what does he say?
So he says he doesn't understand the Trumas Adeshan. I could tell you an answer. It's not a good answer, but I could tell you an answer. Want to hear an answer? There's an idea from Rav Shimon Shkop. They say from Rav Shimon Shkop that the way Kiddushin works is that Kiddushin is something that's chal every second. You marry her, the Kiddushin, and you do the Maisa Kiddushin once, and the Chalois comes again and again and again and again, over and over again. Chalois is the Chalot, Shezechal. The Maisa is the action that makes
the beginning
a paradigm, a halachic shift in status, and the Chalois is that which makes it effective, makes the shift effective, right? So it says the action, you do the action once, and then what creates the halachic status regenerates itself automatically, continuously for the rest of their life, or until something interrupts it.
And if somebody chas v'shalom got accident and he became a tzemach.
Yeah. So there was a Maisa in Tzfas.
What?
There was a Maisa in Tzfas a year ago.
What happened?
What?
Doesn't function.
No, because what breaks the chalos? What breaks the chalos is either Misa or Gerushin. right? So if a guy becomes a vegetable, so it's not misa because he's still alive technically, and it's not gerushin, so there's nothing to break the chalos.
So what happened in Tzfas?
But no, in Tzfas there was a guy who was what's it called? He became a vegetable, and he was a vegetable for a long time, something like that. He was a vegetable for like 12 years in a hospital or whatever. And at some point, the Beis Din basically decided to they themselves gave a get to the guy's wife, and she was able to get remarried. It was a very complicated situation, what they did over there.
And then he woke up?
No.
Then he died?
Not that I heard of. So, if
he was a vegetable for 12 years, so I guess then he died after 12 years.
No, I'm saying he was a vegetable for 12 years when the story happened.
When they got a get for her.
Something like that. I don't know exactly all the details, but there was they put out the Beis Din of Tzfas put out a tshuva about this case, and it's like a 98-page tshuva. I have it on my computer. If you want to read it, you can. I can email it to you. It's mostly copy and paste from Bar Ilan, all kinds of different stuff, but yeah.
It would be chaval if Eliyahu HaNavi left his wife as an
aguna. Right, chaval.
Be like, how could there be such a pshat like that?
So it could be that once we have this idea of ish v'loy malach, so that would make it that if the chalais kedushin happens continuously, so that it would make it that at a certain point you can't have a chalais kedushin anymore because he's not a ish. So then mimela there's no more kedushin. Okay, I don't know. It's just an idea I'm throwing out there that I just thought of on the spot right now, but it's an interesting idea. Let's go weiter. Rabbi Elazar Hamaydoi Omer. There's a lot to do, and we're going pretty slow. Rabbi Elazar Hamaydoi Omer. Rabbi Elazar Hamaydoi says, Amar Pinchas v'hechem al Yisrael b'soid shem mefarish. Pinchas got up and he made an excommunication on Klal Yisrael with the secret of the Shem mefarish, with the ineffable name of Hashem. Of Eksav Shenechtav al Luchos, and with the writing that was written on the Luchos of the Cherem Beis Din Elyon, of the Cherem Beis Din Tachton, and the excommunication of the upper Beis Din in Shemayim and the Beis Din down in earth. What did Pinchas make this Cherem about? Shelo Yishta Adam Yisrael Miyanam Shel Goyim, that a Jewish man, shall never drink from the wine of a Goy.
How about whiskey?
I hear. We said last week that the whole what caused them to do the averas with the Bnei Midian was that they drank yayin amayni, the Ammonite wine, which was a special aphrodisiac that the Bnei Midian were using with them. But if they didn't drink this yayin, they would never have been nishtal in the avera. The Gemara says that this whole story happened before the Isra of yayin of Stam Yaynam came about. Now yayin, there's two things that people commonly confused with each other. There's something called Yayin Nesach and something called Stam Yaynam. Yayin Nesach is literally wine that was poured for the sake of Avodah Zarah. So that is for sure aser. It's considered idolatrous paraphernalia, and it's always aser. There's a second thing called Stam Yaynam. Stam, any wine that belonged to a guy made it, he had access to it or whatever, so it becomes forbidden for consumption. Not necessarily detached from the fact, from a chashash that they used it for Avodah Zarah. There's a special gzera of Stam Yaynam otu b'nei sehem, because if you drink their wine, you'll end up marrying their daughters. That's just the way it worked in the ancient world.
It has to be nowadays even a Shomer Shabbos guy.
What?
A non-religious Jew would also
right, because we have a halacha that a mummer for Shabbos is like a mummer l'kol Torah kula. And therefore, because Shabbos has the same stringency as Avodah Zarah. So a person who doesn't keep Shabbos, because Shabbos is something that testifies about Hashem creating the world, so a person who doesn't keep Shabbos is sort of rejecting that Hashem created the world, and therefore is like an Ovid Avodah Zarah. So the wine of a person who doesn't keep Shabbos is the same thing as like the wine of a guy. So this halacha of Stam Yaynam, the Medrash over here is saying that Pinchas was the one who instituted it. He was Mesakin, he made a cherem of Stam Yaynam. And what's it called? The Radal brings from the Ramban in Sefer Mitzvahs that the Ramban says that even though Pinchas was the first one to be Mesakin it, but it wasn't accepted in all of Klal Yisrael until the time of Daniel. So Pinchas was mistaken, but it only really became a more popular, accepted halacha in later generations, the time of Daniel, after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. There's another interesting thing that the Radal brings down over here. It says that he brings the Baal Peor in Parshas Balak, when it says Vayikach Romach, the Pinchas took a spear. So the Baal Peor says the word romach is the same letters as the word cherem. That's the Baal Peor. So the Radal says that the Baal Peor is referring to this medrash over here. That Pinchas made a cherem against drinking Stam Yaynam of a guy, even if it doesn't have to do with the Avodah Zarah, just to get them away from the daughters. So romach is the same letters as the word cherem, and that's what Pinchas did. I wanted to add one more nakuda. Romach and cherem is also the same letters as
rechem.
Keva, rechem.
As rechem. Okay, that's true. Rechem. I was gonna take a different approach.
Also rachamim, rechem.
Rechem. Yeah, I was gonna take an approach of chamor. First of all, yayin, the word wine in Aramaic is chamra, right? So the Kava Yashar in Parak Ayin Vav says that he brings from B'Shem Kubalim that if a person is nichshal in yayin nesach, he's going to come back in a gilgul as a donkey, as a chamor, because chamor is related to the word chamor, yayin. So this is also hinted to in the pasuk of Vayikach Romach, because Romach is also the same letters as chamor. A Jewish man shouldn't drink from the wine of goyim, kihem mirpas raglam, because their wine is the thing upon which their feet tread. Shenemer, it says the pasuk v'tzeni mirpas ragleichem tirena, umirpas ragleichem tishtena. You're going to drink that which their feet tread upon, that which their feet walk upon. So you shouldn't drink it because the wine of mirpas is a lashon of walking on top of.
I have mirmas.
Mirmas. No, tzoini mirmas raglechem tirena umirpas raglechem tishtena means mirpas is a lashon of walking on top of, like drisa. That's sort of what it means. Mirpas. And there's another girsa over here. And I saw in the Higer edition from the Ksav Yad, the Kisvei Yad have both of these. Kihem mirpas ragleim, because it is the thing upon which their feet tread, or kiim mirpas ragleim. You shouldn't drink their yayin unless it's mirpas ragleim, unless it's that which they with their feet. So that it's really a sin, not a shin. That's the problem. But you could, one second, you could read it like that. We'll get to that in a moment. But Pashup Pshat is it means ki'im mirpas ragleim would mean that unless it was done with their feet. The Marzu says that al pi halacha it could be that if a guy makes wine with his foot as opposed to mixing it with his hands or whatever, it could be that there are tzadim to say that it doesn't have the din of yayin nesach. Ein nisuch beregel. So it's not going to have din yayin nesach. You still have a problem with Stam Yaynam, but it won't be yayin nesach if they do it. Yeah, hayom gam kam. But you could also read it like Rav Tzvi wanted to say it, mir pash raglam, which means the mud. Refesh is mud, the mud of their feet. So what does that mean? The mud of their feet. Like don't drink their wine, but you could drink the mud of their feet. What does that mean? Don't drink their wine, but you could drink the mud of their feet. So both the Radal and the Marzu tell you to look at this sefer called Shevet Yehuda. Shevet Yehuda is a sefer written by Reb Shlomo ibn Virga, where he brings different stories, historical shmadim, stuff that happened to Klal Yisrael. And in Shmad Hazayin, Hashmad Hashvi'i, he brings a story that there was once a king, and somebody told the king that the Jews don't like you, and that's why if you touch their wine, they're not going to drink it. So he tested it out. He touched a wine, and the Jew didn't want to drink it. So he said, "Oh, I'm going to go kill the Jews because they don't like me." There's a similar medrash about Haman and Achashverosh, but this is a different story. I think it was like.
When we said.
Oh, it was by Kamsa Bar Kamsa in Gittin. he said that the Jews won't drink it, if the fly falls into it, right? They'll take out the fly and drink it. If you touch it, they hate you so much that they won't drink it. Right? Fine. So that's the story by Kamsa. Here, so he tested out. He saw that they're not going to drink it. Right? So the king had a Jewish doctor, a Jewish physician. So he asked his Jewish doctor to drink the wine. The doctor says, "No, I'm not going to drink it." So the king is getting very angry. So the doctor says, he chaps what happened. So he says to him, "So look, I'm your doctor, right? I help you out with all your bodily stuff or whatever. Look, I'm gonna clean your foot today, right? Because your foot is dirty or whatever. I'm gonna help you clean your foot. After I clean the foot, I'm gonna drink that water of that comes out after cleaning your foot, all the leftover residue. Right? And if I drink, and he drinks that water, right? And by doing that, he showed the king that the reason why we don't drink your wine is not because we don't like you. I'll even drink the water of your foot, the refesh raglam, the mud of your foot. That after cleaning you, I'll even drink that. I don't have anything against you personally. Just that there's a halacha that says that you're not allowed to drink Stam Yaynam of a guy. That's a halacha. It's nothing personal. It's just that's the way it is.
She said, "Listen, have some gefilte fish. I'll punch gefilte fish."
Yeah, we should have said that. But so they want to say that's what it means. Ki'im mirpash raglam. That don't drink their wine, but you could even drink their mirpash raglam, the mud of their feet. Shekol Yaynam shel goyim la'avodah zarah v'liznus. All the wines of yeah, that's true. Shekol Yaynam shel goyim la'avodah zarah v'liznus. All the wines of goyim are for the purposes of avodah zarah and the purposes of znus. Shehein loikin reishis tiroisham la'avodah zarah v'liznus, because they take their first vintage, the first wine of the season, and they give it to their avodah zarah and they give it to znus. Shenamar, it says in the pasuk. By the way, we know that in the Dead Sea Scrolls, so we know that the people who the Dead Sea Scrolls were found by them, the cult of the Dead Sea Scrolls, so they had a special yontiv, the cult of the Dead Sea Scrolls. No, I'm saying the Dead Sea were found in their caves or whatever. Oh. So they had a special yontiv that we don't have. They have a special yontiv. I think it was like in Chodesh Av or something of the first wines. They had that was something that Avodah Zarah commonly did. They had the first wines, so it was for znus and for Avodah Zarah. Shnamar znus v'yayin v'sirei shikach leiv. Znus is promiscuity and wine, and tirish is another word for yayin yikach leiv. It takes your heart. Because of another passage says alti b'seive yayin b'asar lai. Don't be from the seive yayin, the people who are indulged in wine. Right. So that's a reference to znus and Avodah Zarah. How do you see Avodah Zarah over here? What say yayin? How do you see Avodah Zarah? First pasuk is znus v'yayin. Where do you see Avodah Zarah? So Marzu says, don't read it as seiv yayin, people who are indulged in wine. Rather read it as soyav yayin. Samech aleph beis yud is in lashon Aramis. Soyav yadayim mesuavos means dirty or disgusting or tameh. So tameh wine, meaning it's a reference to Avodah Zarah, which is called tameh. We find other places that Chazal and even Tanakh, they put together znus and Avodah Zarah as like, vayiznu acharei baalim. Klal Yisrael strayed after the baalim, but the word strayed is znus, is as if it's like referring to sexual immorality. It's the two things, they go together a lot. Just a vart on this week's parsha, because it's Motzei Shabbos Parshas Noach, and Mamish comes in over here. We find by Noach it says Noach ish tzadik tamim haya b'darasav. Noach is described as a tzadik and a tamim in his generations, multiple generations. What's the multiple generations? So Noach lived in the time of two generations of utter destruction for mankind: the Dor Mabul and the Dor Hapalaga. The Dor Mabul, the Ikra Vera, was Gilui Arayis. Each person was corrupted in an immoral, in a Gilui Arayis type of way. That was the Dor Mabul. And Noach was a tzaddik, alludes to the fact that even so he maintained his purity and his righteousness and his innocence. Just like Yosef, who's the quintessential tzaddik, Yosef a tzaddik, he's called a tzaddik because he was able to withstand the taiva for Gilui Arayis. So Noach is called a tzaddik for the same reason. Tamim right, is a reference to Dora Palaga. Noach was alive in the Dora Palaga, which we've spoken about earlier in the parak about Dora Palaga. Their Iker Kavana in building the Migdal Bavel was to do Avodah Zarah. They were trying to go against Hashem, right? They're trying to go against Hashem. So Noach was the opposite of Avodah Zarah. Tomim tiya im Hashem elikecha. He was Tomim with Hashem. The Chida says this vart, that Tzaddik and Tomim is connected Gili Arayas and Avodah Zarah. Right? So I wanted to be Meisif on the Chida's vart. So based on this, now we can understand why there was such a taina, such a complaint against Noach, that the first thing that he did after coming out of the teva was that Vayita Kerem. He planted a vineyard and he made wine. Why? Because we just said here in the Medrash, all the wine of the Goyim is Liznos al Avodas Kachavim. So even though Noach Mistama had noble intentions, but most of the yayin that was used in the world is for Znos and for Avodas Kachavim. So why is Noach getting involved in that? That's not who he is. He's tzaddik and tamim. He's not.
He did do all those with Hashem also.
True.
So why did he do
Not
a
a
vineyard
vote.
right away?
What?
Why did he do a vineyard right away? Why did he get involved with that stuff right away?
So I think we said this b'shaita that Noach thought that after the Mabul, the Chet of Adam Rishon was fixed, and one of the explanations we said of the Chet of Adam Rishon was that the what's it called, the Eitz Hadas, according to one man the Omar, was a Novim. And the problem was that he took the Anavim and he made yain and he drank it right away. He should have waited till Shabbos, but he didn't wait till Shabbos. He did it on Friday. Right? That was the taina against Adam Rishon. So some of the Farshim said that that's what. So Noach thought that after the Mabul was wiped out and all the people who did affairs were gone, and now the world got its tikkun, and now it's time for him to drink yain. That's what some people want to say. Or there's a whole long shtick over here from the Radal, but I'm not going to do it. We'll go weiter. It has to do with Amin and Moav and whatever. What?
And he got messed up with the wine.
Yeah, he did. I say he did. What time is it, by the way?
8:25.
9:25? 8:25. Okay, so we'll try to do this fast. We'll skip that piece and we'll finish. There isn't so much left. Pinchas Eliyahu Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, after this whole story happened, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, do you remember what the Midianim did to you guys? That the Midianim caused that 24,000 Jews should be killed. Before you die, Moshe Rabbeinu, you should do revenge against the Midianim. It says in the pasuk, go get revenge of Bnei Yisrael from the Midianim. The end of the pasuk says, and then you'll die. So Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, first wage war against Midian, and then you'll die. Right? Before you die, you make sure that Bnei Yisrael gets their revenge. Me also Moshe. What did Moshe Rabbeinu do? Lokach elef ish mikol shevet v'shevet mishivtei Yisrael. He took 1,000 men from each shevet, from each tribe of the 12 tribes of Israel. Harei shnei masar olef. Behold, it comes out that there were 12,000 people, 12,000 men that he's going to take with his army to fight the Midianim. V'hamekana alazima nosi alehem. V'hamekana alazima, the one who was a kanoi against promiscuity, against these immorality, meaning Pinchas, he was the kanoi, nasi alehem. He was the prince over these people, meaning Pinchas became the kayin mishuach melchama. He was leading them in the war against Midian. The Ramban Chumash says because Pinchas started the mitzvah, he was the one who was maskil in the mitzvah, so it's roy that he should be the one who would finish the mitzvah. Says the Medrash, v'lakchu es klei hakodesh v'chatzaitzres hatshua biyadam. And let's read it like this: V'lokach, and Pinchas took as klei hakodesh, the holy kelim, v'chatzaitzres hatshua biyadam, and they had in their hands the chatzaitzres hatshua, the trumpets for blowing for the war. That's what they took in. It says v'lokach es klei hakodesh. He took the klei hakodesh, the holy vessels. So what are these holy vessels? So Radal brings a machlekes between different sources. Medrash Rabbah and Medrash Tanchuma say that these things that were the big day kahuna and the Urim Tumim that Pinchas took with him. The Gemara says, and the Sifri say, the Gemara and the Sifri say that the Klei Kodesh that we're talking about wasn't the big Dekun and the Urim Tumim, it was the Aron. It was the Ark of the Covenant, right? The Aron with the luchas in it and everything. So Adal says that over here it says V'lokach as Klei Kodesh. He, Pinchas, took the Klei Kodesh. Now, if it's the Aron, it can't be that Pinchas took the Aron because it takes more than one person to take the Aron. So the Radal says, from here you see that Pinchas Eliezer understood not like the Gemara and the Sifri that it was the Aron, rather Pinchas Eliezer understood like the Medrash Rabbah and the Medrash Tanchuma that it was the Big Dekuna and the Urim Tumim, and Pinchas took those things. That's what the Radal says. Lamaisa, the Radal had a gersa that said V'lokach. We don't have a gersa that says V'lokach. It says V'lokchu. Our gersa says V'lokchu. They took. So if you read it as they took, it's not mukhrach to say, you're not forced to say that they took the big dekuna and the Urim Tumim. You can say they took the Aron with them out to war. They went and they captured the daughters of Midian and they brought them into the camp of Bnei Israel. Moshe Rabbeinu heard that they were successful in their war, and he went out to greet them, and he saw them. And he said to them, Al elu noflu misrael arba v'esrim olaf. He said, on account of these women, 24,000 Jews died. Shenemer hein heina hayu livnei Yisrael b'dvar bilam, right? Limoy mal ba'Hashem al dvar Peor. These were the women that caused Bnei Yisrael to stumble, right? Why did you save them? Why are you bringing them into our camp? What are you thinking? Says the Medrash, Hitzchel koyes aleim. Moshe Rabbeinu began to get angry on them. On these people. Shenamar says the pasuk Vayiktzef Moshe al pikudei hachayil. Moshe Rabbeinu got angry on the people who were charged with the soldiers. And through Moshe Rabbeinu's anger, his ruach hakodesh went away from him, as we're going to see in a minute. From here you learn that a person who becomes angry, he loses his chachma. The Baal Peor points out that by Moshe Rabbeinu, first of all, and the Radal says as a chas v'sham to say that Moshe Rabbeinu was a captain. A captain is a person who regularly gets angry. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't regularly get angry. And also, it says Moshe Rabbeinu lost his ruach hakodesh. Here we're saying a captain loses all his chachma. It says loses any wisdom, any general wisdom. So what's the difference? So I think it could be the Radal trying to say this, that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't get angry. It says hischil. He started to get a little bit angry. So he started to get a little bit angry. He lost his ruach hakodesh. He lost his whole high darga of ruach hakodesh. And from that, the Medrash extrapolates, learns out that a person who regularly gets angry, he'll lose mamish all his dargas. He'll lose even his regular chachma. That's how I want to understand what the Medrash says.
So it's a kol v'chomer.
Yeah, it's like a kol v'chomer. It's a shtickle daya, but whatever. It's like I'll derech that. Karel Elazar, Moshe Rabbeinu called Elazar v'kiblei ma'acharav. Karel Elazar, sorry, the Shechina called out to Elazar, the Ruach HaKodesh called out to Elazar v'kiblei ma'acharav, and Elazar received nevuah from behind the Moshe Rabbeinu. Shneimar vayemer Elazar kakoin al anshe atzava, etc. Asher tziva Hashem es Moshe. Basically, what happens is that Elazar then goes to the people of the milchama of the army, and he tells them the halacha of giulei akum, of kashering vessels that you took from a guy, how to kasher it, right? And then he ends off. He says, "Asher tziva Hashem es Moshe." So why is Elazar telling them what to do if it's Asher tziva Hashem es Moshe? Elazar says Hashem gave this command to Moshe, but he didn't give the command. He didn't give the command to me. But because Moshe Rabbeinu lost his ruach hakodesh, so like the nevuah somehow like went through it, the nevuah Batim came to Moshe, but it went through Moshe and went straight to Elazar, and Elazar is the one who set it over, because Moshe Rabbeinu lost his ruach hakodesh to some extent. We sort of spoke about this in the end of Perek Tezvav, that Elazar was in a certain way, at least in this parsha, on the darg, his nevuah was on the darg of Moshe Rabbeinu's nevuah. He like sort of replaced Moshe Rabbeinu just for the parsha of Giulei Akum. One last nekuda. Rabbi Leil Izmir asks, why taka did the soldiers bring back the daughters of Midian? What were they thinking? They should have killed them out or whatever. Why would they dafka bring back the daughters? Like Moshe Rabbeinu was getting angry at them. Like he was sort of justified in doing so. So Rabbi Leil Izmir says two pshatim. The first pshat is the Gemara in Yoma and Daf Pei Vav Amud Beis says that a person's tshuva is not complete unless he's ba'isei perek, ba'isei makam, or ba'isei isha. Unless he's in the exact same situation in that time, at that place, and that with that woman, and he's tempted to do a sin, and he doesn't do a sin, then his sin is completely forgiven. It shows that his tshuva is complete. So Rabbi Eliyahu Israel wants to say that that's why the soldiers Dafka brought the women back to the Machane Yisrael so that it'll bring them back, and then the Jews won't be nichshal with them this time, and that will show that the tshuva that they did because of Pinchas was a tshuva shlema, and they'll be completely forgiven. That's one nukuda. And the second nukuda is that he wanted to take the women that weren't nichshal and be megayer them, so that they won't be part of the sitrach, they'll be part of the sitra de kedusha, and it'll be misakin the avera that Bnei Midian did. Okay, we're done.
When is the halacha of Shevi? What parsha is the halacha of they captured a what?
Yeah, the beautiful woman.
They capture, if you capture a woman, then you can.
Well, Yifas Torah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something else. That's a separate thing.
That wasn't set up, right?
No.